welcome back to my channel. My name's Danielle and I'm the owner of Damn Fancy Creations and the Drunk Flamingo Glitter. If you guys are new to my channel, I do want to let you know that all of my groups and links are posted in the description below in case you want to check them out. Today's tutorial has been in the works for months. I purchased these crystals, I'm pretty sure when I still lived at my old house, which was 2 years ago, and I've had this idea in my head forever and just never got around to putting this tumbler together. But I was going through all of my stuff and kind of had to decide if I was going to use the stuff I had or get rid of it. So I decided to break out these crystals and get them on a cup. Everything you see listed here will be covered in today's tutorial, but if you guys have questions about steps or materials I use, please feel free to ask in the description and I will come back and answer them for you. But for now, we're going to go ahead and get started on this tutorial, and I hope you guys enjoy. Alright guys, so we are going to start with a morning mug from the Steel Magnolias, and I spray painted it white. I am going to get out my Tumbler Grip and attach it to the tumbler. This way it will make it easier for me to apply the foil adhesive and I won't get the adhesive all over my hands. I did tape off the bottom with electrical tape because I did not want any foil on the very bottom. I am just going to go in with the adhesive from Artistic Painting Studios. You can use things like Tack It. I believe Deco Foil has an adhesive, but this adhesive from Artistic Painting Studio is the best that I have found. I only did one layer when I applied it to this tumbler, and the foils released perfectly. So I'm just going in with a relatively soft brush. This is about an inch wide. And I'm going to apply a generous coat of this adhesive to the entire tumbler. I did not apply this to the handle because I did decide I was not going to foil it. I did want to paint it with my gold leafing additive. I don't know what you would call it. It's just a gold leafing liquid. So I am just dragging my brush from bottom to top. We're just wanting a smooth application, and then we are going to let this dry completely. You will know when it's dry when it's just kind of tacky and not wet. If this were a colored tumbler, you would be able to tell it was dry if the adhesive was clear, but since it's white, you just kind of have to gauge. I did let this sit for probably an hour, and now we're ready to apply the foil. I forget exactly what this is called, but I will link it in the description. It may be called oil slick or something like that. And I just cut my foil sheet down to size, and I am just slowly applying it to the tumbler. There are a couple wrinkles in there, but that really isn't that big of a deal. The foil will lay flat. So I just get my squeegee and just rub on that foil just so I'm sure that it is attached well and we will get a good release. So once I have kind of rubbed it all on there, we are going to gently remove the foil, and you guys can see how pretty that release is. I have never been able to get a release like this with Tack It or anything else. It came off super clean and it looks great on the tumbler. And now we're going to go in with our liquid gold leaf. I get this from Hobby Lobby or Michael's, but you can also get it on Amazon. I will link it in the description for y'all. And I decided to go with this background because I didn't want it plain, but I didn't want it to take away from the crystals. So I think the kind of opal foil and the gold handle just enhance the crystals that are going to be going on the tumbler. And I'm just taking a very small paintbrush. I'm being very careful around the edges. I don't want to get this gold on the tumbler itself. And then we're going to paint the rest of the handle. And to clean your brush, if you do use this, you will need acetone or alcohol. This will not come out with regular soap or water, or it will just take forever to get this additive out of there because it is oil based. So you will need something that can really clean it good. And there's our daily train, y'all. So once we have this painted, I am going to apply 2 layers of epoxy, and then we will be ready to apply our crystals. I use ARTISTRY's 1:1 ratio fast set. We do have a discount code for them below. It is Damn Fancy. And I am fully epoxying before we add our crystals, because once our crystals are on there, we are not going to apply any more epoxy. So make sure your tumbler is epoxied well. There are no bubbles or anything you need to smooth out. And then we're going to apply our crystals. These are what I'm using. These are just the string of crystals you can get in the jewelry section at your craft stores. Then I used some vase filler. And we're going to use our glue gun to attach the crystals. I tried a few different ways that I had in my head, and this was the best one that worked. I'm just going to start with a little bit of hot glue just to attach the crystals. I am starting with where I want my center to be. I kind of decided that I wanted my crystals to go at an angle from the handle to the top. So that is how I started to apply my crystals. So I started in the center, and then I kind of worked my way out from both sides. And I opted to go with these kind of rustic pink blush colored crystals as well as clear. I thought they had a good color variation, and they also went with the gold on the handle and some of the colors that were in the foil that I used. At the craft stores, they do have loads of these colors, so you can choose whichever ones you want to go with, whatever color scheme you're going to work with. And I am just attaching my crystals from the outside or from the inside out. I want to make another mug where the crystals are just around the handle. I almost did that with this one, but I wanted this one to be more of a statement. But I think it would be really cute just to apply the crystals around the bottom handle and maybe a few at the top. And I will say, when you are creating your crystal design, you do kind of have to make sure that you can still grab the handle and these crystals aren't gonna stab you or anything like that. So I did kind of test it a couple times just to make sure that the crystals weren't gonna block your hand from grabbing that handle comfortably. And once I have the main line of crystals, I start to kind of go in behind the larger crystals and add smaller ones just to fill in some space. And for this particular tumbler, I did use about 2 full strands of the crystals. And I do suggest waiting until they're on sale. They do go on sale like 50% off ever so often. And that's usually when I stock up on mine. I have like a huge crystal collection, and this is probably one of the first things I did with them. I do use them for my geode art as well, but tumbler wise, this is the first time I've used them. So now that all of the crystals are on there, I am applying the hot glue to the center of the crystals in between all these cracks, and then I am pouring the small vase filler onto the hot glue and stuffing them in there. That way it kind of fills in all of those cracks and just adds even more sparkle. So I am just applying a little bit of hot glue and pouring those crystals on, pushing them into the hot glue, and then I kind of pop my tumbler to get any loose pieces out of there and reattach if necessary. And this can also be found in the vase filler section of local craft stores. You can get it on Amazon as well. It's basically just crushed glass that has been tumbled. So once I have all of the center filled with the vase filler, we are going to go around the edges of the crystals and do the exact same thing. So we're applying a little bit of hot glue around the edges of the crystals, underneath the crystals, so we can fill all of this with our vase fillers and just add a little bit more sparkle, kind of like you would see if you cracked open a rock, I guess. Like the druzy crystals, where it's like the small crystals and then the big ones when you bust open a geode. So I'm just doing the same thing, pressing the vase filler into the hot glue and then dumping the tumbler over just to get any of the loose items out. And again, we're just going to do this around the entire tumbler. And if you guys do not have this cup cradle by Cami Page Boutique, I do suggest snagging one. It's super compact, really convenient. We do have a code, it's Damn Fancy, that you can use to save some money. Cami Page Boutique is also the company that makes the edging tool and the ultimate tumbler guide tool that I use. It's run by Brooke Tannehill. She's super sweet, one of my good friends. So once we get to the end, I am just cleaning up any hot glue that I see, any hot glue strands, things like that. And then we're going to go and seal everything in with UV resin. Now, if you wanted to try regular epoxy, you may be able to try it. I just did not want to risk ruining my tumbler by doing something dumb. So I am using UV resin. I'm just getting clear UV resin. I like to use countercultures. And I'm just mixing the tiniest amount of a extra fine glitter. I believe this is the Infidelity cocktail or Ocean Breeze Vodka cocktail from my shop, the Drunk Flamingo. It is an extra fine opal iridescent that just gives a really pretty fine color shift. I'm just using the tiniest amount because I don't want it to interfere with the resin curing. And basically what I'm going to do is drizzle this UV resin right on top of the crystals, and then we're going to cure it with the UV light. So I'm just going to start in the center, and I am just drizzling it over the crystals and all of the crushed glass. And you do want to work in small sections because you don't want this UV resin to run off the crystals and onto your tumbler. So I'm just working in about a 1 to 2 inch section. Counterculture's UV resin is pretty thick, so I know that it will stay in place pretty well. If you use a UV resin that is a little bit more liquidy, then you may need to work quicker and in smaller sections. But I am just covering everything, making sure that all of these crystals are covered so that when you wash it, they're not going to pop off. Because if we just use this just with hot glue, obviously that's not going to stay permanently. So the UV resin will hold everything together. So once that section is cured, we are going to move on to the next section. And we are going to cure for about 1 to 2 minutes at a time until everything is covered nicely. Now, what we're going to do is go along the sides, and we're going to apply another layer of UV resin along the side part of our crystal creation. That way the sides are also going to be held in place to the tumbler. So the UV resin is holding the crystals together, and now that we're going along the sides of the crystals, the UV resin is going to hold the crystals to the tumbler. So when we get done with this, all of the crystals, all of the crushed glass, everything will be covered in the UV resin. And then all of those crystals will be held on to the cup with the UV resin and not just the hot glue. So you guys can see right here my line of UV resin, and we're going to go do that along the entire tumbler. So once that is finished, you can kind of wiggle it, wash it, make sure nothing's going to pop off, and then we're going to do our crystal bottom. We're going to go in with some white UV resin. This is already colored from CC DIY. Here comes Mr. Mo. So this UV resin is already colored, ready to use. I am just popping any bubbles that I see with my weeding pen. I'm going to put my logo tag from Missy's Doodles right in the bottom. And then I decided to add some crystals to give the bottom a little more interest. And I tested them with my tweezers to make sure that the crystals were not going to protrude past the bottom of the tumbler, because we still want it to sit flush and flat and not be wobbly. And it passed the test, so we were good to go. So I'm just arranging these little crystals on the bottom, and then we are going to cure everything with our UV light. Once that is cured, we are going to go in with a little bit of clear epoxy mixed with just the tiny amount of glitter, kind of like we did before. And I'm just going to add this in the outer cavity just to give it a little sparkle, nothing crazy. And yes, I've started just pouring this into the cavity. One day I'm going to mess up and pour it everywhere. I just know, but. So then I cured that, and now we're going to go back with a thin layer of clear UV resin just to cover the crystals and the logo tag. If there are any bubbles, I just pop them with my weeding pin, and a little bit of alcohol helps pop them really quickly. And then we're going to cure that for 1 to 2 minutes, and then your tumbler will be complete. And here are some finished pictures of the cup. I love how it turned out. It's different than anything I've done before. It's kind of like my Damn Fancy Geode tumblers, but on steroids. But I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you have questions, please just let me know. And if y'all decide to give a tumbler like this a try, please post in my groups and tag me, because I love to see what y'all create. If y'all enjoyed this tutorial or learned something new, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to catch the next video coming up that was picked just for you. As always, if you're looking for more tips, tricks, or tutorials, be sure to check out my Damn Fancy Tribe, my Drunk Flamingo Glitter group, or my tutorial group. They are all linked in the description. Thanks for watching!